Right now is multi-millionaire investor and Rick Santorum supporter Foster Friess. Mr. Friess, good to have you on the program. Thanks so much for joining us.
Maria, it's always a delight to be with you. I can't hardly wait to get to New York, the studio. It's been too long since we've crossed paths.
It's true. So when you come, we are looking forward to that, having you on set. Thank you so much, Foster. So let me get your take first on the Trump attack on Ben Carson. You know, it really is turning quite ugly in terms of these attacks. What's your take on it?
Well, I'm not sure everyone takes those comments from Donald Trump that seriously. And I think I spent a half hour with Ben Carson one-on-one when he came to Jackson Hole for a fundraiser. I can honestly say the man is pathologically honest, he's pathologically competent, and he's pathologically a committed, kind American patriot. So that's the pathologies I love to see in a man.
Good for you. That's very kind of you to say, and also quite accurate. And I think that's why some of these comments from Donald Trump are sort of bouncing off of Ben Carson. People aren't taking him too seriously about him. So would you consider switching your support to Ben Carson then? Because I know you're a Rick Santorum supporter, but he's so low in the polls.
Well, remember the Kentucky governor race, Maria, where the guy was down 3% in the polls. And he winds up winning by 9 in Kentucky. So the polls don't mean a lot. And if you look what's happening on the ground in Iowa, Rick is getting a lot more support, getting more county chairmen. And it's that actual activity on the ground that counts. The polls have been kind of discounted. I understand the pollsters have some challenges now because people are using more cell phones rather than landlines. And that's had some kind of a perverse effort on getting the kind of results that they'd like to really achieve.
Yeah, I think that's a good analysis. We're just getting news out, Foster, about the economy. Retail sales for the month of October up 0.1%. Really not a good showing. This is much weaker than expected. The estimates were for 0.3% growth. PPI, the Producer Price Index, down 0.4%. What's your take? You're out there seeing, the real economy on the ground. When you see numbers like this, the retail sales up just 0.1%, does that jive with what you're seeing on the ground? How would you characterize things right now?
Well, I see a lot of activity in the malls, and as I walk around, I see a lot of people at restaurants. So it's hard to gauge that. But I think as far as the economy goes, Maria, what we have to do is get a more efficient economy. For example, just think of all the costs that the whole world is incurring by all these refugees fleeing. When if we would have supported the Peshmerga early on, they could have taken out ISIS 6 months ago. Our government has been reluctant to give them the kind of armaments they need because they're sort of beholden to the Shiite government in Baghdad. And so the people do not realize the tie to our economy by what's happening in that battle. I was excited to learn that the Peshmerga got to the mayor's office in Sinjari. They've gained the access and control of Highway 47 on both the east and west. So they perhaps cut off the supply to the Peshmerga. And so the economy is affected by that, and people don't realize that all these refugees never would have had to leave if we would have given the support to the Peshmerga that they deserved, and they love America, and you can't find a Kurd that you don't like. These people are on our side, and we ought to support them. So the economy is chugging along, from what I can tell. I know that's not a really direct answer, but I had to sneak that in about the Peshmerga. Sorry about that.
No, I'm glad that you did, because I think the uncertainty of the Middle East also certainly weighs on people. It's all under the umbrella of uncertainty. We don't really know, what's happening and whether or not we are going to be able to defeat ISIS. But of course, the news today is that Jihadi John, it's very symbolic. He was the guy in all those videos of the beheadings. Apparently, the Pentagon saying 99% sure that we got him in this most recent airstrike. Your thoughts on the news this morning that Jihadi John may be captured and dead, actually?
Well, but see, I think that's a problem, Maria. We kind of focus in on all these symbolism. Jihadi John, how many people are out there that are just as evil as he was? There's thousands and thousands of people, beheading people, crucifying Christians. I drove by the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., and I saw emblazoned, "Never again, never again." And here we have this unfolding on TV, and I get a little annoyed at my Christian community friends that they've turned into holy huddles and hymn singing country clubs. They say, okay, we'll pray for these poor people, and then they decide who's going to head up the rummage sale. I think the Christian community is asleep at the switch to realize that they ought to be on their haunches and calling their congressmen, Democratic congressmen, and say support the Peshmerga because they're the true people that are fighting for our cause. They should be our boots on the ground. We send 50 special forces, and that's symbolism. The 50 special forces, yeah, that's important. It's nice we did that. But why in the heaven's name aren't we giving them every single piece of equipment they need? Like Charles Krauthammer said, we ought to have a Berlin airlift and give our friends what they need to win the war for us.
Right. Well, you're not the first person to question the foreign policy strategy that we've got in place right now, or this whole strategy to lead from behind. Let me move on to the GOP right here, Foster, because we had a debate where we really did discuss the issues this week. What was your take in terms of those discussions? In terms of the front runners or the main stage debate, I know you're supporting Santorum, but was there a plan that struck you that sort of was best?
Well, here's something very fascinating. The National Center for Policy Analysis is headed by a very conservative guy, Alan West. And they made an announcement that there were 5 presidential plans that were advanced, and then they only mentioned 4 without mentioning Rick Santorum's. And Rick Santorum's plan, as far as I know, I don't know if the others got the same accolades, but Art Laffer, Steve Forbes, Steve Moore, Grover Norquist, all these are giants in Americans' tax policy. They all gave not just endorsement, but accolades to Santorum's plan of a 20% flat tax and gets rid of all the deductions except home interest and charitable contributions, allows companies to expense everything the first year. And I just think Rick is like in a demolition derby. His car is kind of going on the outside perimeter, and there's not much contact. And I think once the press catches on to some of the things that he's advocating. Now, another point, one of your colleagues said, we thank Trump for bringing up the immigration issue. First time. Well, wait a minute. I was at Santorum's announcement speech when he decided to run for president. He says, I am not only in favor of cutting illegal immigration, but I'm for favor of reducing legal immigration because we have to protect the workers in America. He wrote this book, Blue Collar Conservative, and he talked about the 74% of Americans who have never graduated from college, and he's the guy championing those people. So I think he's got a lot of opportunity laying ahead as people get more aware of what he's advancing in terms of the confrontation of ISIS and his Welfare Reform Act that he orchestrated. So it's not all over for Rick Santorum. You keep an eye on him. All
right, we will do that. Foster, good to talk with you. Thanks so much. Foster Freeze joining us, supporting Rick Santorum. We'll be watching Rick Santorum. Thanks so much, Foster. And we'll see you in New York next time.
Okay.